Okay, so Walking the Path, A Leader's Journey was created from lots of different variables, but the primary variable, it was written after my second suicide attempt. Okay, and so with that being as it is, my subconscious went into high gear, because at that point, Mitch, my mentor friend, was a significant part of my life. Um, but he then became very purposeful in how he was interacting with me because I was in a dark place. Okay.
Yeah.
Now, I wanted to write a book on the surface. On the surface, I needed to write a book because I'm 50 something years old. And, I've got the title of doctor, but I don't have any credentials behind me other than the doctor credential. So it was imperative that I write something of value to kind of say, put my name on it. And I got it. I got something I could put my name on. But the so it's not a book, or it's not a conversation around what leadership looks like at an entrepreneurial level or at a C-suite level or at a business level as a manager. It's a leadership book based on personal growth, because when you're in a dark place and you don't see anything but the darkness, you really are at a loss of your own value, of your own purpose, your own importance, and all those elements. And so from my subconscious, I just said, okay, well, here's Mitch, and so he has to be a character in this story. Um, but the other characters in the story are pieces of me. They're not necessarily real people that I'm actually, now they could be. Now they directly could be, but I was manifesting pieces of myself. They said, okay, um, you need a cheerleader. Somewhere deep inside of you, there's a cheerleader who wants to live. And so, i.e., that's Liz. Okay. Somewhere deep inside of you, I also know that there's the misfit. And so that's Penny. She doesn't belong anywhere. And so I do recognize that as part of who I am. I don't necessarily have to resolve that, but I do have to recognize that as that's a part of who I am. Sometimes I don't fit in it anywhere, and that's okay. It's okay to be different because that difference differentiates you from other people. That's a uniqueness, and that uniqueness is a power and a skill. It can become that once you learn to see it that way. Joy, the other character, is kind of the wannabe. She wants to be like Liz. She wants to be popular. She wants to be pretty. She wants to be all those things. And so it's easy to see that in any one of us because we often don't see our own value, but we see the value of other people. We like what we see in other people. Oh, that their person's rich. I want to be rich. That
Mm.
person's pretty. I want to be pretty. That person's athletic. I want to be athletic. We're wanting to be that other person rather than seeing eventually, and actually the second book, which I did write, joy does come into
Do you already have
terms,
that?
huh?
The second book.
I wrote it. It's on the computer. I mean, it's not published or anything.
Mm.
Joy comes to an understanding of who she is because she's actually given a gift. No, no teasers here. She's
No,
actually
don't.
she's actually given a gift in terms of a book, which she then it's like that thing that you've been missing your entire life, and somebody gives it to you, and you found yourself. It's right here, and you mature into that space. And so that's something that she doesn't get until the second book. Anyway, then there's the mentor. And of course, the mentor is simply a grounding tool for all of the other characters, especially the main character, i.e., me. Say, okay, what's it going to take for you to achieve something that you want to achieve? What's it going to take for you to climb over that mountain?
Mm.
Well, what are you going to do? You have to be honest with yourself. That's the first thing that you had to be doing. That's the first thing that John learned. He had to be honest with his own feelings. Um, you know,
Yeah.
Uncertain is not a feeling. Uncertain is a thought. I don't think I could do something. But how do you feel about that? Well, I feel scared. I feel angry. I feel upset. I feel afraid, frustrated. Those are feelings that are real and they need to be addressed. Okay, well, what's causing you to be angry? What's causing you to be frustrated? And so these are the things that John needs to work out. And then he says, well, if you're going to achieve something, you can't do it alone. The risk is too high. There's too many barriers. You need to have friends with you. You need cheerleaders. You need supporters. You need to have some people who believe in you. You're one of those people for me. You need to have people who believe in you, who can help you achieve your vision, your goal, your mission, whatever that is. It could be something small, it could be something big. Climbing the mountain is pretty big. It doesn't really matter. But in order for those people to understand where you're coming from, you have to be open, honest, and vulnerable with them. It's clearly identified in the book. The first person he had to become open and honest with was Liz, because that's his best friend. Um, and so once he's able to accomplish that, once he's able to say, this is, I got to do this, and that she actually, and you read the book, she actually thought he was nuts to begin with because it's not what's expected in their place. But because of her trust in him, because of her relationship with him, because she was willing to say, okay, and some of that is her heart's in it as well. And you know that because you read the book. She's willing to put what she thinks is expected aside and say, okay, my place is with John. I accept that my place is with John. Whatever he says, I will support wholeheartedly. Whatever the sacrifice, and that's the word I'm looking for. Whatever the sacrifice is, she has to sacrifice it, and because John knows he's going to sacrifice everything. He's got to do this, meaning that life limb, it causes his own death. But when he recognizes that, and then he has a team of people who is going to support him, he has to step up and say, okay, well, what is it going to take us to not only just do this come hell or high water? No. What's it going to take us to do this and be successful at it? So he now has to think about not just himself. He's got to think about everybody else on his team. Of course, right now
Yeah.
that's the horse, the dog, Liz, and Penny. Um, but that puts him in a unique situation because he's never been there before. He's never been in a situation where he had to think outside of himself. He had to take care of the other people on his team, that he is responsible and accountable for other people. That's a new responsibility for him, but he was willing to take it on and, with the help of his mentor, learn the skills that addressed those things. But again, coming back, he had to be open and honest with everybody on his team. This is going to be risky. This is
Yeah.
going to be whatever, challenging. Whatever those things that he told Liz and Penny, uh, and they had their own motivations to climb the mountain. Liz's friend Penny was a misfit, so they had their own motivations, but they trusted John enough and believed in his vision and his competency to climb the mountain because he already had hunting, fishing, hiking skills.
Yeah.
So he had the foundations. That's where that comes out. And so for me, surviving my second suicide attempt was about, finding the things that were innately me and then wrapping that around what is it that you want to achieve. And the first thing I wanted to achieve was connections with other people because up until that, I lived a very lonely life. Just me, these four walls. And you know a lot of that backstory. So for me,
Yeah.
it was important to connect with other people, starting those conversations and figuring out where people were in the world. And it just so happened that I was connecting with the right people. Serendipity, I don't know. Fate, I don't know. Whatever it is, I was starting connecting with the right people who wanted to share their stories, who had stories of trial, triumph. And so it was from those, what's the word I'm looking for? It begins with a V, but I can't, when you put yourself in the other person's shoes to kind of live vicariously, I think is the word I'm looking for, to kind of share those stories. And even though my story wasn't being shared, it was other people's stories that was being shared. Building those relationships, building those trust,
Mm.
understanding what trust looks like, understanding what vulnerability starts to look like. So these are the things I was learning through all those conversations, right? And so, now we're at 160 conversations plus some. And this is just on the question guide. It's sharing those, heart-wrenching, God, when Tina had that conversation with
Yeah.
me and she said, I got together with my husband for a booty call and 24 hours later
He's
he's
dead.
dying
Yeah.
of a heart attack. I mean, how gut-wrenching is that? Allie Stone talks about, they went to Japan because, she's supporting her husband, and her husband is an endurance athlete. He runs like the seven major
Yeah,
marathons in the
I
world. And
remember
so
that. Yeah.
he got an infection, and now he's not necessarily a vegetable, but he's not himself anymore.
No.
Um, Krista Hernandez, Krista is modern medicine failed her. She literally said I was rewatching our conversations, you're going to be in pain for the rest of your life. It's basically they wrote her off at age 13, 12 or 13. How would you like to be 12 or 13 years old and being told, you know, this is what to expect? Or the new one, Alethea Felton,
I
she was,
haven't watched that yet. I
you
haven't.
haven't,
You sent me to me. I haven't watched it yet.
she was born with a dysfunctional liver. She's been, quite frankly, close to death 3 or 4 times since since she was born. She could die today because she just
Mm.
got this recurring illness, and it's just going to flare up. There's no preparation. Oh, it's not a cycle. It's just like when it hits, and so bam. Where do you get? And then so all of these things are where I'm growing through. I'm climbing the mountain. I'm climbing my own mountain, figuratively, in 2025, literally. So, because it represents something. It represents what's on the other side, what's in me, what happens when I'm done. Who will I become? What happens to the section hikers who hike with me? What will they become as a result of this challenge? Are they up for it? I don't know. Am I up for it? I don't know just yet. I don't know. I got to do it. Is John up for it? I don't know. He's got to do it. He's got to find out. We got to find out what's on the other side of that mountain. That's my story.
Yeah, that's beautiful.